Maria was born in one of the glorious towns of the province. She spent her childhood there, and there she graduated from high school. She moved to the big city and went to a college to become a pastry chef. She had a love for cooking since childhood, and learning was easy for her. She returned to her hometown, and for some time she was looking for herself. She worked at different jobs, but it didn't bring her satisfaction. In the end, she decided to still leave for the capital. Her mother didn't mind, as she didn't have time. All her attention was occupied by Maria's sister, Julia, with whom something constantly happened. From childhood, she either gets sick, or she was bitten by a dog, or she was almost left for her second year at school. The girls were twins, but completely different in both appearance and character. Maria is gray-eyed and fair-haired, and Julia is brown-eyed. Maria is a copy of her father, and Julia inherited her mother's features. The father left the girls almost immediately after birth, and the mother raised them alone. Apparently, the similarity of Maria with her father explained the cool relationship with her. The mother couldn't forgive the betrayal of a loved one, and the very existence of Maria was an everyday reminder of this. Therefore, when Maria was going to study in another city and then work in the capital, her mother even seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Maria left them, rented an apartment for the money that her mother gave her for the first time, sighing heavily, and got a job in the private pastry shop. She was a good confectioner, and soon there was no end to the customers. She met her husband John among the regulars. They were both hardworking and stubborn, and very quickly, young people realized that they were going in the same direction, and they began to meet. They got married a year later. John was also a visitor, and they rented an apartment for a long time. Then they opened their own candy store. Things went very well for them. They worked hard and soon were able to take a 3-room apartment on a mortgage, and a year later, Maria gave birth to a daughter. During all this time, she only once went home to her mother with her husband and daughter Nicole. Nothing has changed there. Her mother continued to patronize Julia. During this time, she married and gave birth to 2 children and was already expecting a 3rd child. They sold their mother's apartment and took a 4-room apartment on a mortgage, and they all began to live together. Mother, Julia, with her husband and 2 children. Not a day passed without scandals. Mother and Julia fought for any reason, being both explosive natures. Then Julia gave birth to her 3rd child and began to swear with her mother even more. And her mother was getting old and could no longer give her a worthy rebuff. But she suddenly began to call Maria and complain. "Maria, when Michael was born, your sister became uncontrollable. I have a feeling that she wants to send me to the next world, and I gave them everything. I sold my apartment for her, and she does this to me. I'm tired. The children are growing up. They need space, and I occupy a room here." Then the mother came up with a way out of the situation: to move to Mary. Maria is a cultured, kind, and responsible person. She loves her mother and will not let her be offended. Her mother cried into the phone, "Daughter, I need some little corner. I agree to everything. Just take me away from here. I beg you. Your sister will bring me to the grave." Maria is a compassionate person, and here her mother pours tears on the phone every other day. She turned to her husband, but was refused. Her heart is torn to pieces from an insoluble situation and from pity for a loved one. The beloved family and the suffering mother are on the scales. "My dear John, what should I do? She is my own mother. How can you not understand? Maybe we can rent an apartment for her nearby or in the suburbs. But you also have a mother." Her husband said the last word. "Maria, don't ask me about it. I am categorically against you bringing your mother to us. 3 days was enough for me then. I don't want to live in such a hell. She will be with us for the weekend, or you will be with her. Do you understand that then it will be the end of our family life? I am against it." One evening, after another lamentation from her mother into the phone, Maria was sitting, considering different options for saving her mother. She didn't immediately notice her husband standing in the doorway. "Maria, are you thinking about it again?" "Yes. And I have an idea, but of course it will cost us money. But what can you do for your beloved mother-in-law?" He smiled. "So, we will buy a 1-room apartment in her town, but we will issue it to you, and your mother will live there. And when Nicole grows up, this apartment will come in handy for her or her children. Do you like this option?" Maria threw herself on his neck. "John, how wonderful you are! How smart you are! I had this thought in my head. By the way, I was afraid that you would be against." John replied, "Mary, but I can see how you are going through." That same evening, Maria joyfully announced the news to her mother, to which she heard her mother's vague answer, "I don't even know. I need to think about it." This puzzled and upset Maria very much, and the next day, her mother called and resolutely stated, "I never thought that no one would need me. I didn't ask you for an apartment, but I wanted to move closer to you, to my granddaughter and my relatives, and you want to pay me off. You promised an apartment, and besides, this apartment will be registered in your name. It is an insult. Daughter, here's my word to you. Either an apartment, but registered in my name so that I would be the mistress there, and not some kind of orphan. Or I don't need anything from you, and I'll manage somehow without you." Taken aback, Maria sat for some time completely without thoughts. She had a feeling that she got a dust bag on the head just like that. She told everything to her husband, to which he said honestly but harshly, "Do you want the truth? I was sure she would say something similar. In any case, you now know everything without illusions. But listen to me, she is your mother, and in any case, we have money for an apartment. You just tell me and we will immediately buy her an apartment, okay?" And her husband hugged her tightly by the shoulders, encouraging her. And Maria thought about it, and she was very hurt that she and her husband wanted to help her mother, but they were made guilty, and that her mother said nasty things to her instead of gratitude. After all, it has always been like this since childhood. She was always to blame for everything, probably even for the fact that she was born. She was very upset to hear this from her own mother, but she realized that in fact everything was not so bad with her, because she had a wonderful husband, daughter, and she stood firmly on her feet. And parents were not chosen, especially since she has only her mother left. She still decided to buy her mother an apartment on her terms, and the mother in turn realized that she had done wrong and apologized to her daughter and her husband. And she refused to register the apartment for herself at the time of registration of the apartments. Thank you for watching. And what would you do in such a situation? Write your opinion in the comments.